Is this thing working? Are we live? I think we're live. What's happening, everybody? Hope everybody's having a fantastic whatever day you're watching this. If you're new to the channel, well, welcome to my little corner of YouTube. It's pretty much just a background noise generating thing, typically talking about motorcycle stuff, sometimes car stuff, and sometimes you never know what kind of stuff. But thanks for stopping by either way. So I was going to give you guys some updates on the bikes, let you guys know what is kicking with those contraptions. And going to do a bit of a short show. This is my opportunity to interact with you guys directly. So if you have any questions about stuff that I've put out already, you're wondering, what about this bike or what is going on with that? Whatever the case is, now's your time to ask. It's also a time for me to work through topics that sometimes don't really lend themselves all that great to a standalone video. Either that or I just can't seem to, hammer my way through it. Oh yeah. So a couple of things. One, I recently put out a video that was it was decibel testing on the two GSX-R 750s. We did some decibel testing with the Yoshimura R77 full exhaust and the M4 full exhaust as well. And little surprise that the R77 was quite a bit quieter than that M4. Quite a bit quieter, as a matter of fact. But in that video, I had a couple of funny misspeaks. So if you haven't seen it yet, I am aware of them, but I'm not going to try to go back and type in anything. You'll know them when you hear them, and it's pretty funny. But anyway, let me check in with you guys. Sam is in. Armac is in. Miki is in. What is up? And DM is checking in. Good evening, chat friends. Got the ball guy with the flex and the specs. I like it. So, so as far as the two 750s go, what's weird about those two bikes is that they really couldn't be any different one from the next. And for them to be so close to each other in build date, they're only a month apart. It's kind of funny. Just riding one and then riding the other, just how much different they are with two different tunes with two completely different exhaust systems. But I was able to drag out the blue bike for a little bit. And yeah, I got to tell you, that bike is spicy. I think the M4 might have the edge in outright horsepower. But I do have to say that the R77 does feel grunty through the mid-range. And one of the things that I didn't, in the comparison video, I did the back-to-back, and I was thinking about doing I was going to pull the fairings off the bikes, or at least the right side fairing, and show you guys the real differences in those systems. Now, I don't know if that would have really done a lot of good. I don't know if anybody would be really all that interested in that. Let me know if you would be. I can walk you through just how those two systems are different from each other, and really they can't be any more different in terms of their approach. The R77 is much more like a stock system, like what you would have expected to see maybe out of an old school stock, any four-cylinder motorcycle, as opposed to the M4, where it really is trying to do the balancing between the sides and everything else. So a little bit more, I guess you could say, the technical differences are quite a bit different there. Let's see. Sam's saying, saw a real oddball on the road the other day, a Mopar L body. I have no idea what that is. John is in saying, hello, John. But yeah, no, the like I say, the two bikes really could not be any different from each other. So it's been fun kind of getting to know each one and how they get down the road. But I will say that blue bike, man, she rips on the big end. So I don't know. It's going to be a close call between the two bikes, which one has the outright power, just the total advantage, one bike to the next. But one thing I will say about the R77 is that when you're going down the road and you're tipping into that Yoshimura, it does feel like it's got a little bit more grunt through the mid-range. I'm not really sure why that is. I rode the Blue Bike again just to see if I could maybe wash some of that information through a second ride. And I got to say, it feels like the M4 may have the edge on outright power. But again, that more stock-like configuration with that Yoshimura where it pairs 1 and 2 and then 3 and 4. And then it just kind of blends them into a single pipe. I think that bike may, or that system or that setup may lend itself to a little bit better torque, but I don't know. John is in saying, hello, right? RMAX saying, when are you going to ride a CF Moto? Whenever I can get somebody to get me a CF Moto. I'm almost to the point now where I've got to like maybe go rent some bikes to see where I can, try to facilitate some of these bikes that I'm not able to get a leg over. Miki's asking, where did you get the exhaust hanger on the Blue Bike? That is the M4 exhaust hanger. Just comes with the kit. I mean, you could get one from M4 though. And how is the rear set doing? The rear sets. With the rear sets being pushed back. Okay. So yeah, good question, Meeks. So what I did with these two bikes is I scooted the foot peg position back. So on a GSXR 600 and a GSXR 750, you can scoot the rear set back about, I call it an inch, or you can drop it by about the same amount. And I got to say, I kind of like the rear sets back a little bit better. It kind of opened up my riding position a little bit. So instead of being a little bit more forward, my feet and my knees are back a little bit further. It makes it a little bit more comfortable if you've got longer legs. It doesn't take any real time to do it. The one thing that you will need or should have is a set of C-clip pliers. They have the little things where you can open up that clip. You could probably get it off with a couple of picks or something, but having a set of C-clip pliers is definitely worth having around anyway. John saying back pressure. Man, it's going to have something to do with scavenging. And it's kind of interesting because you can hear it in the exhaust note with it's almost like how do I put this? The Yoshimura sounds more like a stock bike. And because you've got pairings, the bang, bang coming through one set of pipes. I don't know if this makes a difference or not, but that's 180 degrees off, as opposed to being 360 degrees off with the M4. So, yeah, I don't know if that makes a difference, but I can tell you that from a scavenging point of view, it is a little bit different having the setup the way that M4 has it, because it's literally firing and it's pairing 360 degree interval cylinders, which you would think would be the best for scavenging, but it's only better for scavenging at certain RPM intervals. In some areas, pairing up 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 is going to be better for the number 2 cylinder. Let's see, for the number 1 cylinder and for the number 4 cylinder. So again, it's like having the tuned velocity stacks. It kind of works in the same way with the exhaust, depending on how you pair those up. Sam saying basically the larger K platform. Yes. The all platform is the Omni Charger, and oddly enough, the Rampage. Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. I used to have one. Sam's asking, is this the last Motor Chat of 2025? Yes, it is. As this is the 27th, and we are coming into next year. Next Saturday will be the 3rd. It'll be the 3rd of January. So yes, the last Motor Chat of 25. John is saying thumbs up. So anyway, getting back to it, some of these tests that I've been doing with these two bikes. It's been kind of interesting. Hold on just a second, guys. Some of the interesting stuff that I've been finding out, at these different bikes that I've been riding and, coming into, phasing out this year. We'll do a year in review for the Two Wheel Tuesday. But I've got to say, obviously, big fan of the Gixxer middleweights. I am somewhat on the fence right now with what to do with my GSXR 1000. And the reason why I say that is, as much as I love that bike and as much as I love riding that bike, I don't really get the same amount of, how do I put this? I don't get the same amount of glee out of riding the leader bike that I do out of the 750. And one of the reasons for that is, okay, let me paint a picture for you. Whenever I take out the leader bike, the problem with a GSXR 1000 or an R1 or with any of them really is that you want to go faster all the time than what you're doing. And what I mean by that is it normalizes speeds of 130, 40, 50 miles an hour in a way that is, there's no labor in it. So getting on to, let's say, a long entry ramp. The funny thing about a GSXR 750 versus a GSXR 1000 is I'm kind of shutting the speed down at the same number with both bikes. And what I noticed going back, and I don't want to get too deep into like the whole philosophy of one versus the next, it's just how fast are you going to go? The funny thing is I end up just going as fast on the leader bike, or I'm going as fast on the 750 as I would be going on the leader bike. And I noticed that the other day, getting onto this, a couple of areas where I'll just kind of buzz up the bikes and just kind of fan the thing through the gears and let them eat. The funny thing is that the leader bike kept wanting to try to float the front tire, and it's doing leader bike stuff, which is cool. I love leader bike stuff. But one of the interesting things is by the end of the run, I might not have been pinned wide open with my Gixxer thou. And if I was, it'd be going faster than this. But, I would find myself at the end of this little long right-hander doing about 150, 154 indicated. Okay. Interestingly enough, it didn't matter what bike I was on. I was just going to go that fast anyway. The weird thing about it is that there's no penalty for having the 750 in that it goes that fast in the same amount of time. Now, again, full disclosure, I'm not pinned. I'm not fully tucked. I'm not fanning the leader bike through the gears. That's not the point. It's just that I'm running the thing through the gears, and it's kind of the same A to B. It's just that the 750 happens to handle a little bit better, at least has better front end feel. So I guess for me, it's just one of these things where I'm kind of at a weird spot right now. I mean, I'm gonna be wrong. I love my 1000, but I'm wondering if that bike is just going to take a major backseat to the 750s. We'll see. But again, if I'll go back and look at some of the footage that a lot of the footage that I take, by the way, doesn't end up on the channel for reasons. But I'll go back and I'll look at my corner entry speed, or I'll go back and I'll look at mid corner speed, or I'll look at, where I am, what is my closing speed, for example. And when I go back and look at all of that, a few things kind of come to mind. My closing speed is faster on the 750s, or on the 636 for that matter. But for sure faster on the 750s. My mid corner speed is typically higher on the 750s by a significant margin. The leader bike, although it has better, for obvious reasons, better corner exit, what I'm finding out is that it's not translating into a more fun experience. And so anyway, I'm just kind of in that weird place right now with, motorcycle life, right? Where you're looking at it from the point of view of, I like the idea of my GSXR 1000, but sometimes the execution, the riding of that bike it is more of a handful, and that can be fun, but it's also a bit of a distraction. And I'm starting to get back into that same kind of mode that I was in years ago when I quit riding on the street altogether. I just kind of went all track for the most part. I say altogether. That's not exactly true, but I started riding a lot less on the street because I found myself in a place where I just could not really ever have fun. And you start to kind of not respect the bike that you're on once you get to that point too. So, I don't know. I've kind of gotten to a point now where I don't know. I'm leaning so heavily into the 750s right now. I just don't want my 1000 to start collecting dust. I think I might take that thing out tomorrow. Maybe if I take that bike out tomorrow, it'll reset. I got to do a little bit of a palate cleansing with that thing. Sam's talking about his new mower. You know what's funny is I had to do the same thing on the four-wheeler to get it to start the other day. Patreon for the videos at question. You know what? Somewhere in here, there's a link to a Patreon page that I never actually did much with. But if you want to contribute, by all means, I wholeheartedly suggest. I thank you if you do. Obviously, it's not mandatory, but thank you if you do. But no, most of the guys will do super thanks or super chats, and I appreciate each and every one of y'all that do. It's just kind of interesting. Talk about Patreon for the videos in question. Probably not going to do that. If I start doing track days again, which if I'll put it to you like this, if I do end up letting the 1000cc bike go and I pick up a 600 specifically for track use, then I may kind of move into doing the Patreon thing for the track related stuff, because those are going to be long form videos. And for the guys that want to see it or want to see some behind the scenes stuff, I may do a little bit of that, but we'll see. I don't know. I'm a little bit on the fence with that. And I'm starting to get more, I'm starting to get a little bit more into should I start doing track days again? We've got a nice enough smaller track locally that I could get out there and just have a ball with on a medium-sized bike and, not try to be too competitive, just get out there and, maybe, exercise some competitive, nature, if you will. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I would do Patreon or if I would do memberships for some of the stuff that's behind the scenes on that. I have to do a lot of blurring. But no, the bikes are running really good. And as far as upcoming ride and review bikes, I've been trying to get a GS 1200 ride for a while. Completely swamped at the dealership, though, so I wasn't able to pull the bikes out. The K1600 is also on the short list of bikes that I would like to do a ride and review on, mainly because it's, it looks like you're riding around on a spaceship. I mean, that thing is absolutely crazy. Both of them are, actually. But the 1200, the K1200 or GS 1200, I'm sorry, is one of the bikes that I'm interested in because so many people like that bike. And so I want to try to get a little bit of time with one of those bikes. And also too, I'm kind of fresh away from riding the Africa Twin. Also another bike that I rode that I really liked was the BMW GS 850. I know a lot of people that had commented on that were saying, well, the bike's down on power and all that. I thought it was plenty of power for what it is. But I've ridden the GS 850, and to be able to compare it, I would like to maybe compare it to the Tiger 1200. I know that the Tiger is going to be more powerful, but does that really even matter when we're talking about these types of bikes? I would probably argue not really. I have ridden the Harley Davidson Pan America. I happen to like that bike quite a bit, but as is easy to see, anytime I do Harley Davidson content on this channel, it doesn't really ever do all that well. So it is what it is. Ninja, good question. Thoughts on the electric steering dampener on the Gixxer 1K? I don't know if I can speak in capital letters, but sucks is about the best way that I can put that. If I do end up keeping that bike, it is going to get the Öhlins retrofit kit put on it. I am not a huge fan of that. It really doesn't seem to do much. Especially, okay, so you really notice it not doing much when the bike is cold, when the forks are cold, in cooler weather, when the oil in the forks is still just not letting everything move around, and you're hovering the front tire more because the bike's making more power. Everything is working kind of in a bad way in this, where the bike's floating the front tire a lot more. Even under partial throttle conditions, it'll get a head shake. And it's like, come on. And the problem is there's not a way to adjust it. Like, I can't go in and go, okay, I want a stiffer feel out of this system. It's programmable, but you don't have the ability to program it unless you've got the software to do it. And so, and here's the thing about that 1K too, and I'm not kidding when I say this. One of the annoying things about that bike is that you get it tuned, you get it set up. It's awesome on the BNC roads. It would be great on track. But the problem is that you start to run into these goofy little issues when these bikes get to a certain power level. And I was just thinking, man, I should have just got an R1, because R1, basically leave it alone and just enjoy the noise that comes out of it with a slip on. And the only reason why I say that is because you get these bikes to a certain point and you start finding weak points everywhere else on the bike. And it doesn't happen with middleweights. It absolutely happens with leader bikes. Ask anybody that is, what the hell just flew up my face? Ask anybody who is riding a leader bike with experience. And I mean leader bike experience. One of the things that they'll say, obviously, is, obviously tires are a joke on those things. Bikes eat them up. But one of the big issues with those bikes is suspension setup. That you're carrying a ton more speed into corners. Brakes, you're going to be harder on the brakes. My approach speed in many cases is about, 10 to 15% higher than on any other bike that I'm riding. But one of the key things is the suspension has got to be able to deal with the extra loads that you're carrying, not only when you're coming into corners, because your closing speed is going to be higher, but on exit. And I'm telling you right now, you will start to find all of the weak points with that bike once you start riding it hard, because it's got enough power to tax all these new components that the less powerful bikes just don't have. And it's so annoying because it's stuff like a steering dampener, where you kind of need it more on the leader bike because you're floating the tire more. It's got to be adjustable. And the fact that you can't adjust it is just, it's an annoying fact of the matter with that bike. Not that you can adjust other ones. Maybe you can, but I don't know. There are times where I was just like, God dang it. I like having the extra power with the tune and the pipes and all that stuff. But I got to say, I liked the R1 from an ergonomic point of view every bit as much as I like the GSX R1000. I like the front end feel of the R1, but just to kind of tone it down a little bit with the outright power and just to have the noise and then leave it alone. But who really leaves them alone? Anyway, rant mode disabled. Let's get back to it. DM saying, that's how it starts. Yeah, absolutely. Next thing you know, track days all the time and you'll ride less on the street. Yep. Oh, and DM saying Scott steering dampeners are good too. Yes, they are. I like the Ohlins only because they make a dedicated kit for the Gixxer Thal, and it comes with the electronic plug to to tell the computer everything's cool, even though it doesn't have an electronic stabilizer anymore. Um, oh, Sam talking about car electronic suspension with MagneRide. Yeah, this doesn't work quite like that. It's a little bit different type of a scenario. It'd be cool if they did though. But yeah, well, that's when I was living in NorCal. I mean, I kind of quit. Again, I say quit riding on the street. I quit riding on the street as much, and I also quit riding on the street the way that I was riding on the street, where I was a lot more aggressive before. I started doing track days, and it kind of took all of that out of me. Matter of fact, we would have different bikes come in and out of the shop. Bikes that were trade-ins, buy and sell or whatever at NorCal Cycles. And, I would see these guys, they would come in with some pretty heavy artillery. What the hell? Did y'all see a bug fly out my face or something? Anyway, the funny thing is, I would just, I was never really all that excited about getting out and ripping it through the can or ripping it up in the mountains because I would have already done it. I got it all that out of my system at T Hill. So I don't know, but I say that, but that's not exactly true, is it? Because, I would get on the backside of Sunset, on the backside of the, on the Pacific side, heading to La Honda. I don't know, get a little bit spicy back there, but up through the actual mountains themselves, I just go out there and play. I mean, it wasn't, I quit taking street riding so seriously by leaps and bounds. And it was just, all right, load everything up. Let's go to Willows, which is the city where T Hill is located in Northern California. But yeah, no, but I'm thinking about all that. I'm going, man, I just don't get a chance to enjoy the 1000 really, I guess, the way that I would like to. And it's, again, a lot of that has to do with the Gixxer 750. And this is what I wanted to get to. I mean, talk about around my ass and between my legs, get to my elbow on this point. And I know I've said this before in other videos, but if you came from a leader bike background and you've decided or determined one way or another that you're just like, man, I love my leader bike, but I want to do shit with it that I know that I can't really get away with on the street, at least not long term. But you don't want to get rid of it because you can't bear the thought of not having it. So you're in the same boat that I am. Just figure out a way to incorporate a GSXR 750 into your life. And that way you can have both. And I'm telling you, having both in the garage has kind of reset me in terms of riding fast. I've actually gotten better because of having both of those bikes working kind of together to help to build a skill set. It would not be like that with an R9 or with the new KTM or with the V2 Panigale or any other middleweight. It just, they would not be able to do what the leader bike can do for outright power, and they can't do what the Gixxers can do, whether it's a 600 or a 750. I'll spread this out a little bit. It doesn't have to be a Gixxer 750, although it should be, but you can do this with a 600 also if you've got a leader bike. And if you've got a leader bike, what having a Gixxer middleweight will do in this whole symbiosis thing is that the middleweight Gixxer will make you attack corners harder because of the extra front end feel and the way that the bike rewards fast drop in speed, because you can feel this, you can feel everything going on in the front end of that bike where you kind of can't really with a leader bike, at least not with the Gixxer Thal. It's going to reward that, and it's going to trigger something. It triggers something in me when I'm on the Gixxer 1000, where I just kind of trust the front end versus feeling it with the GSXR 750. But what it will also do is it will get you more into the habit of maintenance throttle and when to start rolling into the throttle with your leader bike. And it'll start to teach you what to feel when you are getting a little bit ham-fisted with it, talking about the leader bike, versus when you just get real ham-fisted with a middleweight, where the middleweight may kind of dance a little bit. The leader bike is going to obviously be a little bit more lively in that respect. So having both of them in the camp, what it's doing is it's teaching you the limitations of the tires, and it's teaching you, at least it's teaching me, how to better be more aggressive in certain areas that can be a little bit intimidating for guys. I've never had an issue with lean angle. I've never had an issue with approach speed. I've never had an issue pouring the coals to bikes on corner exit. But each bike is a little bit different. And the leader bike, the strange thing for me with that bike is that I had to learn to kind of calm down a little bit. Don't rely so much on brakes with that thing on corner entry. Let the engine braking do its thing. Be a little bit lazier with it through the corner, and then start to roll into the throttle hard once you see your exit. And it's funny because, you know, with my leader bike, it really is more about slowing things down so that you can speed up on the back end, where the middleweights, it's, you know, pour the coals to it, high corner speed and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of cool to have both of them in the camp. And like I say, having both is helping make me better. And no matter how good you are, you can always get better. But yeah, if you can find an old ratty Gixxer middleweight, man, they're worth their weight in gold as far as I'm concerned. Z saying exactly. DM saying leader bikes are more of a point and shoot style. Absolutely, they are. V-line versus U-line. You'll hear that be brought up a lot. V-line in that you come in more, your line is a little bit more almost exaggerated with a leader bike, and you're going to have less time on the side of as little time as possible on the side of the tire on a leader bike. Coming in deeper into the corner, you're going to have a slower mid corner speed, with the whole idea that you want to get that bike whipped around. You want to see your exit. So I'm going to be looking around. My head's going to be completely turned. I'm looking for my exit. And the second I see that exit, I am pouring the coal to that leader bike. Because you want to have the longest straightaway, if you will, with that leader bike to get the most out of it. Whereas the middleweights, they're smaller bikes. You feel corners differently. The idea with that is more of a U-line, where you're trying to be more flowy with that bike. And again, it's just how the bike's put down power. You can be real ham-fisted with a middleweight on corner exit because it's not going to beat the hell out of the tires the way that the leader bike will. And DM, yeah, leader bikes are a lazier riding style with all the torque and less shifting, but like that too. So here's the thing. You will beat the hell out of yourself. And this is one of the reasons why it's really good to have one of each if you can. If you try to ride a leader bike the way that you ride a middleweight, you will be exhausted. You will feel like you just did 5 rounds in a boxing ring, because you're going to be way too frantic coming into a corner, and then way too frantic on the brakes. You're going to be real hard on those components. Once you drop the bike in, you're going to be slower to be able to get to wide open throttle, because you're taking this long flowy line. Depending on what your corner speed was, you're maybe not going to be able to get into full throttle as quickly. But once you do, you're going to have to take probably an early upshift at some point to carry the gear that you want to your next braking zone. That is not an exciting way to ride one of those bikes. It is very tiring. The way you ride a leader bike fast is it basically just flow, take it easy into the corner, into your faster into your braking zone. You're going to brake earlier because your speed is going to be higher, but your mid corner speed is going to be lower, and just engine brake is your friend. Drop it in, roll into the throttle, get that thing upright as fast as possible. But when you're on B and C roads, guys, I don't even hit the brakes anymore. I just on the throttle, off the throttle, let the engine in essence trail brake for me, find my apex, roll into the throttle, pin it, tuck, haul ass, dump throttle, and just let it engine brake all the way down the straight in some cases, depending on where I'm at. And just let that thing flow. And when you do that, that's when a leader bike is a lot of fun. Whereas if you flip that on its head, if you try to ride a middleweight like that, you will be bored to tears. Middleweights in that kind of scenario, you just want to be on it because you're going to reward the aggression. Whereas the leader bike doesn't really do that for the most part anyway. But yeah, you're right about that. It's just a different way. You can't, I can't stress this enough. If you try to ride a leader bike the way that you do a middleweight, it'll be frantic and you're going to be sloppy. There's no way to get around that. If you take a middleweight's mindset into riding a leader bike, you're going to look, it's not going to be a good day. You're going to look sloppy. You're going to be sloppy on track. And then once you get a leader bike mentality going, the thing is with leader bike, the way that it trains you to be a better middleweight rider is now you're used to all this speed. You're used to carrying crazy mile an hour down straightaways. You're used to crazy closing speeds, and none of that stuff is going to affect you anymore. And now you can focus on finding your line and dropping into what your preferred line is going to be throughout whatever track that you happen to be on. So that's why having one of each is so good. And they're both 4 cylinders. They're both going to rip. Anyway, I highly suggest, it doesn't matter if you find it could be a GSXR 600 or a GSXR 750. They're both awesome to also have in the arsenal. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that. But no, so yeah, both of the 750s are doing really well. The Bonneville is doing great, and I need to get that bike out a little bit more. I haven't been riding that bike as much as I would like. And then Dad's bike. So Dad's bike needs a battery. And I need to ride that bike a whole lot more too. So I may be doing a bit of a restoration on that bike here in, let's say, the next 6 or 8 months. As far as upcoming bikes that I may try to bring into the fleet, I don't know yet. I'm not sure. If somehow or another, a roached out GSXR 600 were to just kind of show up out of nowhere, I wouldn't necessarily be surprised. I mean, I've already got, this little bin right there where my thumb is, right there. I've already got plenty of parts to convert, that do the tail tidy and do all the other crap that I need to do to that bike. So I've got Gixxer enough parts available for one other middleweight. And with the only reason why I would want to get one is to have, a side-by-side comparison for the bikes. Although I don't really like beating up on 600s with 750s. The 600 is a freaking awesome bike. And I don't think the GSXR 600 gets the love that it truly deserves. Its bigger brother is always outshining it, but I've got to tell you, this is the other thing too. And this is something that absolutely I just don't understand it. So GSXR 600, there's also the 750, and they both sell very well, right? You've got Honda with the CBR 600. Oh, and in the markets where the GSXR 600 and 750 sell, they don't care if it's Euro, what is it, 2? No, I think these bikes are Euro 4. They didn't know. They're Euro 3, whatever it is. Euro little number. But they sell a bunch of them. But why don't other manufacturers have a 750 variant, like a CBR 750? I don't know, a ZX7 from Kawasaki, right? It always drove me nuts that Suzuki was in this, battle of one, if you will. And anyway, if there wasn't a GSXR 750, and there was what I'm trying to get to, if there wasn't a GSXR 750, I would be talking the same way about the GSXR 600. I really do feel like it's that good, and it's all in the chassis and all in the suspension. Oh, DM, yeah. When you get off the 1 liter training bike, you haul ass on a 750, which is very true. Your brain will have different brake markers and exit points, which is very true. Also, the funny thing is that on the middleweight, your brake marker early, or your brake marker is not as early as it is on the 750. Your mid corner speed is faster, and uh, your throttle exit point is just your. So if you ever watch, it'll be address the corner on the 750. The speeds really aren't that different when I chop throttle between the two bikes. I just don't trail brake for nearly as long on the 750, but trail brake, drop it in, apex, see the exit, roll into the throttle, and I'm just watch the exit speeds on some of those on the 750. It's nutty. But then you watch the leader, and the leader bike would be coming around it and then dropping into the next corner. So, but yeah, you tend to, after you're on a leader bike and you get your brain used to leader bike stuff, your field of vision when you're on a middleweight or any other bike for that matter, but especially a middleweight, when you're looking to really move out, it's like you see everything. It's crazy. It's almost it's indescribable how much better your field of vision is after you ride a leader bike and you're aggressive with it, and you're legitimately getting that thing on the side of the tire. You're hitting your brake points. You're hitting your acceleration points. You're riding that bike to the best of your abilities for the conditions that you're in, the tarmac and all that stuff. And then hop on to a middleweight, and it's like the whole world opens up, and you can start to hear colors and taste numbers. It's just so different. And then you get back on the leader bike, and it's okay. This is, my reality is different on a leader bike versus a middleweight. And I don't mind admitting that at all. Oh, DM saying, yeah, other manufacturers had 750s, but they couldn't outdo the Gixxer. The 750 series became the Gixxer series, which is true. And here's the thing. But everybody could do it. It's okay to build a bike that people like. And look, I don't mind technology, and I get that TFT screens are nice because they're clear to see, and quick shifters, people like that kind of stuff. But I'm telling you, this is the other thing about the Gixxer middleweights. They don't have any technology. And so you are now the quick shifter. Like, you'll hear me blip downshifting on the 750, and it's just so good. It does everything. It teaches you different ways to think about the ride that you're on. Like, okay, downshift, blip, blip. But you're not thinking about it, are you? Because it just becomes natural. So then when I get now, this is the crazy, if I get on a bike with a quick shifter, it kind of screws me up for a minute. And I found myself with my 1000, I don't even use the quick shifter anymore. If I am really in it to win it, I may still grab a shift with the quick shifter. But honestly, guys, I don't even use it on that bike anymore. But yeah, you're right, DM. I mean, it did turn into the Gixxer series, and it just sucks that nobody stuck it. Like Kawasaki with the ZX7, you had the YZF, the 750 from Yamaha. You had, I don't know if Yamaha did. Oh, you had the RC30 and RC45 from Honda, the freaking legends, right? That were V4 750s. So I don't know, man. It'd be cool how do we get back to that, right? Giss is saying, I'm looking to get a 26 ZX6R now that the recall is fixed. What are your thoughts? Grab one. I love ZX6s. Look, the only reason why, I'll tell you what, if you're near to Houston, Texas, I can tell you where to go to find a very well sorted out ZX6R 636. It's got two-wheel Dynoworks tune, two-wheel Dynoworks velocity stacks. It's got basically everything thrown at it. And it can be, full M4 exhaust. I like that bike a lot. I really do. And you'll never hear me say anything negative about the 636. It's a phenomenal motorcycle. It just was not a good fit for me. Again, it was like wearing a shirt that didn't feel right, or wearing, a suit that might have looked really good on the rack. It just didn't fit right, and that's what happens with motorcycles. Sometimes, man, you get your heart set on something, you do what you can to get it where you want it, and for whatever reason, it doesn't click, and that's what happened with that bike. But for you, it might be an awesome bike, and I would wholeheartedly suggest you get one. And kind of a side quest with the 636, with it having weight more centrally located, it acts just like a leader bike under hard acceleration. Let's see. Mickey's saying, all this 1,000 talk, you're going to be a bad influence on me. Would I be a bad influence or a good influence? I don't know. I love leader bikes. I really do. Z's saying fits him like a glove, and that's awesome. Listen, that's why, look, that's why they got all these different flavors of ice cream, man. I mean, what works for me might not work for you, and vice versa. I love it. Just saying, I wish I were in Houston. I'm in New York. I know some companies that'll ship it up there for you, brother. I don't even know if it's on the website. If you go to Stubbs Cycles, it may be on the website. Matter of fact, I think we were just shipping. I got to check. I think we shipped a couple of bikes. Might have been New Jersey. Anyway, I'd have to ask, but yeah, ship bikes all over the place. But I would have no issues with the new bike, man. None. Well, I don't have any issues with older bikes at all. Especially if the bike was retorqued before it was ever registered or sold. Let it rip, man. Far too many people have thousands upon thousands of miles on those bikes and have had no issues. So don't let all the BS in this interwebs thing get to you. Motorsport Nick's asking if I had to choose that or the 750. Bro, which one did I miss? If I had to choose what or the 750? I guess, are you asking which one would I take? It better be damn good, because my knee-jerk reaction is, the 6R versus the 750? Okay, so here's the thing. 750 for me, because the 750, I fit better on the 750. I like the front end feel better on the 750, and I like the way that my body is built. I just am better on the 750. If you're a little bit bigger dude, the 750 may be the better bike. Now the 6R, actually, the rider triangle is more spread out on the 6R. So think of the 6R, the rider triangle, right in between a GSX R750 and an R1. It kind of blends those two ergonomics together. Or actually, really, it more favors, because the R1's a little bit more forward bias than even the GSX GSX-R 1000. So it's almost like a blend between the GSX-R 1000 and 750, but it is a bigger rider triangle. And I did a measurements video. So if you dig around in my playlists or in my videos, it'll have both of the bikes in the shop sitting like this. And I go through measurements of both of the bikes that explain why the GSX-R middleweights have a certain front end feel versus why the 6R has a more balanced feel when you're on the side of the tire, especially on long sweepers. That is just a calling card for the 6R. But if you dig around in there and you see that video, it'll just kind of walk you through the why behind the what with how those bikes feel. Chief saying, miss my 96 S-Rad. Ooh, and 07 Gixxer 600. Awesome bike. Z saying ZX6 is floaty. It can be. So this is, by the way, I miss my 06 750, and I had a ton of fun on 06 and 7 GSXR 600s back in the day. It's why it's one of my all-time favorite bikes. But the ZX6 being floaty. So the problem with the ZX6 is that the suspension is crazy soft. It's not, I mean, look, I was able to make it work, and I was able to make it work really, really well. But I had to put a ton of work into that suspension in terms of preload, in terms of hydraulic settings. I had to just absolutely do a deep dive, like immerse myself in that bike to get it to sort out. Now, what did that end up looking like? Well, first of all, I'm about 200 pounds, give or take, with gear. And I was a turn and a half out from fully seated on the front preload. I don't even know how many turns on the rear I was, probably 4, maybe 3 or 4 turns on preload. And I had to ramp up all of the hydraulic settings to get that bike to where it acted right. And I had to put a set of Bridgestone S22 tires on it, because those Pirelli Rosso 4s that bike came with were garbage. Now, I don't know if that's because they're maybe not the same Rosso 4 that you get as a replacement tire, but it's an OEM tire, which, yeah, I don't know. I don't want to get into that. I don't want to speculate. All I know is that the bike sucked with those tires, for me anyway. But if you're lighter, like say, for example, you're less than, let's say, 170 pounds and less, then you're probably going to be a lot happier with the ZX6 than I would be. Oh, Sam's talking, bring some car stuff in. There are standalone controllers. So Holley has a standalone controller for the HP70, HP75, and the HP90 transmissions. Motorsport Nick saying, sweet, awesome, thanks, man. I'm leaning towards the GSXR because it's actually cheaper to insure, and also because I really like the build quality over the Kawasaki. Look, I'm just going to say this about the Gixxer in general. That bike, say what you will about it. It's an old design. Yeah, okay, fine. But it feels solid, man. Like that bike feels like you are riding something that is built like a tank, man. I'm not kidding. And I get that there's a lot of folks out there that, you know, you start looking at the different bikes and you say, oh, well, the ZX6 has the screen and the shifter and all this other stuff. But keep in mind how much work I had to put into mine to get it right. And I ended up putting the FTECU shifter on it. God, what is the damn name of it? Anyway, the shift shaft stabilizer is on that bike. There is so much time, effort, and energy put into that thing to get it to where it is as good as one of the Gixxer middleweights in terms of feel. I mean, I don't even know what to say at that point. It just kind of is what it is. Motorsport saying he liking the seating position. It does feel more premium. It really does in a weird way, which, you know, and that's not taking anything away from the Kawasaki. I don't want this to be, you know, it's Gixxer, Kawasaki. It's not like that. I like them both. I really do. It's just that, again, and I cannot stress this enough, the Kawi, as much as I like it, it's a great thing to even look at. It's a great looking bike. I just could not make it work. Which it is unfortunate, but that's motorcycles, right? I mean, and there's some, I'll tell you what else. There are some bikes that, that for me just absolutely click in a weird way. And other people are like, why do you like that thing so much? Like, what in the hell? And I can't really explain it. It's just whatever it is, it fits, everything fits right. The bike I'm talking about specifically, the V-Strom 800. Talk about a complete switcheroo here, but the V-Strom 800 is one of those kind of bikes for me where I get on it. Everything is super comfortable. It's the right amount of power for that kind of motorcycle to do that kind of motorcycle type of stuff. And if I had a use for a daily bike, I'm not kidding, guys, I would have one of those in the fleet, either that or the GS 850 BMW, but probably the V-Strom. But that's one of the weird ones, one of the oddities where you go, I can't believe you would be interested in that thing. I'm like, you have no idea how fun that bike is, right? But then there's other bikes that don't really fit the bill like the way that you would think that they would. The CBR 600 is one of those. That bike and I, for whatever reason, just didn't ever gel in the same way that me and the ZX6 didn't quite ever gel. And you would think that if I liked the Gixxer, I would love the CBR because the CBR has even more front end feel than the Gixxer does. But for me, the CBR was kind of overkill. There's another bike that I didn't think was going to be a good fit and turned out, I mean, we were fast friends, and that is the R1. I didn't realize how much I was going to like that bike until I rode one. And truth be told, if that bike would have been a little bit different in terms of price point, I probably would have just said screw it and came home with it, because it just really did fit that well. So it's kind of crazy. You never know what's going to work and you never know what's going to fit until you get out there and ride these things. And until you're given that opportunity, you just don't know. Oh, Z, love the R6. Dude, you'll never, ever, ever, never, ever, ever, ever hear me say anything negative about the R6. Absolutely love that bike. Love it, love it, love it. Love how that thing just rips on the big end. And that's man, I'm telling you, that is a bike that, oh gosh, man, here's the thing. This is how good the R6 is. For you guys that don't know or haven't ever ridden one, or you don't really get why it's so good, the R6 should, based on everything that went into that bike, the R6, honest to God, I want to say that Yamaha was, from a manufacturing point of view, not from a dollars and cents, but realistically from the amount of like R&D that went into it, the metallurgy, the engineering that went into that bike should have cost about another $3,000 or $4,000. That is a 600 that in a world of bikes that rev to 14,000, it would rev to 16, has an absolute power advantage over pretty much every middleweight. And if you put one of the R6s up against a GSX-R 750, on any track that is like a small to medium sized track, that R6 is going to be hell to deal with. It was everything that the latest 636 would like to be before the 636 even was that. In fact, the R6, if I remember correctly, the 636 was dropped was released, I should say, dropped off into the world, was released to try to go after the 630, the R6. And you were not going to be able to mess with the R6 with the 600, not with what a manufacturer would be willing to spend. Like, not Kawasaki couldn't do it, but to have all of the technology that the R6 has. So it's no surprise that that Yamaha just said, no, we just can't do this anymore, because they just weren't really making manufacturer levels of profits that you've got to make on bikes like that to keep them viable. Oh, Z saying he had 2 of them. Oh yeah, super awesome bikes. DM saying miss the R6. So what's funny is guys that are into sport bikes, there are a few bikes that you'll say, I never should have sold that one. GSX R750 and R6 lead the pack when it comes to those types of bikes. That's just how it is. If you've ever had an R6 and let it go to get something else, you miss your R6. And the same goes for the GSX R600 or the 750. The guys that are really like that will get super nostalgic are the GSX R750 guys. And that's, listen, you can go, they still sell the thing. You can go buy one right now, brand new, as a matter of fact. So, DM, you're exactly right. All Yamaha had to do is turn the R6 into an R7, and then they shit the bed for sure. But the R7 sure is pretty. Oh, it's pretty, all right. But I mean, it is what it is, right? Like and it didn't even have to be as good as the R6. Just make it a 750. Have something that would go up against the GSX R750. That's it. A little bit bigger bore, a little bit longer stroke, leave everything else alone, and voila. You've got the new leader in class. And you don't even have to have all the trick metallurgy. It doesn't, I mean, you can even kind of chill that down a little bit and build yourself what is realistically, you know, when you're talking about the GSX R750, it's about 135 horsepower at the flywheel, 120 at the rear tire. An updated variant of the R6 that's been GSX R750ified, you could accidentally make 145 at the flywheel, which would give you about 130 at the rear tire, just by 13-to-1 compression and 748 cc's with the same camshafts. You don't even have to get dumb. Just the same parts make it. And I don't know. I just, Yamaha, how could you? Get my heart, man. Break Stuff saying, always wondered why the R6 sounded so different from any other 600. Can pick one out from a mile away. It's because they're revving so high. But yeah, there is a lot of trick stuff going in the R6. And Orange Crush and I were talking about this. And I forget, he had seen something. He was telling me that what he had read was one of the engineer guys from Yamaha. I forget exactly how it went. But anyway, he was the one that was kind of dropping the knowledge on me as far as, you know, for Yamaha to keep making the R6, it would obviously have to be a limited market. But even if it were still globally available, that price really had to go up. That bike was kind of on borrowed time, if you will. But man, guys, we are into this for an hour. Awesome. Hey, listen, I have got to wrap this up. Oh wait, B, if Yamaha did that, they wouldn't have needed an R9. Hey, DM, how about this? This is what I was kind of hoping for. You talk about sick to death, right? You've got the R6, and you know that the R1 is kind of on its way out. The R9, it sounds like a good idea, but it's really not a good idea because it's a really good chassis, right? But it's hiding behind a lot of technology because you're going to use the MT09 engine. What? No, you've already got an R6 chassis. You've got the block. It's sitting right there. Why not make a CP4 750? Oh my God. I mean, you realize how fast you could take my money if you're Yamaha and they said, okay, guys, look, this R9 thing, I don't know. Here's what we're going to do. We are going to put 3 millimeters or whatever more stroke on the R6. We're going to give it an overbore of 2 millimeters on the pistons. Everything else is going to be left the same. same cams, same cylinder head, same everything, but make it a CP4. Do you know how sick that bike would be? The sounds that it would make, the look of the thing, the performance of it. I mean, look, even if it only, I say only, even if it made the same exact horsepower as the GSXR 750, perfect. Yeah, like you're literally making a Yamaha version of what many people consider to be the perfect sport bike. Except it'd be even more perfecter because it would be a CP4 engine platform. It'd be a cross plane. What? So anyway, that for me, look, I get the why behind them not doing it, but instead of the R9, look, here's my problem with the R9. My problem with the R9, by the way, the invite is still open. If anybody locally has an R9 that wouldn't mind me taking it out for a spin, hit me up. Here's the thing. The problem that I have with the R9 is that it could have been so much better, but they used the corporate motor on it, which it's not a bad thing, but I don't know. It's not a bad thing, but it just, to me, it didn't have the vision. You know, it didn't have the what if factor, that cool factor. It just seems like an opportunity lost. But my goodness, I'm not kidding. I mean, I've got two GSXR 750s. If you think that for its, and I would have paid a premium for it too. I'd have said, look, make it basement. Like when it comes to technology, cool. Give me options for technology if I want it. But can you know, I'd have paid money for a bike like that. And I get it. It would have to be a limited run, and I understand it would be a limited global offering. So is the Gixxer 750 and 600. That doesn't bother me at all. So, and I can assure you, Yamaha would sell every one that they made. I mean, look, it's not like they're going to sell less than the R9 that they're not selling right now. And what's the deal too? You know, Yamaha is weird because the allocations for Yamaha dealerships are not all that great for these bikes. R1 is low, but the R9, I mean, you can maybe understand the R1 being a little bit low, right? But the R9, for real, like Yamaha should be stacking dealerships to the rafters with R9s. The problem is that they're not. And the funny thing is that it's like, okay, are they trying to contrive like a false sense of scarcity with this thing? Like, oh, they don't have them very often, so it must be a special, but there's nothing special about the bike. It's a good core chassis with an MT09 tail section and an MT09 engine. It's got a lot of technology. It's got really good suspension and really good brakes. That's great. But the problem is that that's not translating. How do I put this? The R9, all that stuff is not translating. And if it was so great, explain to me why it is that so many R9 owners are getting rid of those bikes. I'm all ears. I'm waiting to hear a reason why guys, honest to goodness, are moving away from that bike within like 6 months of ownership. A lot of guys that I have, well, I say a lot of guys that I've talked to, I've only talked to a few guys that have owned them. They've all gotten rid of them. Oh, sorry. One guy hasn't gotten rid of his yet. There's one guy that I did talk to that's thinking about swapping his for, wait for it, a 636. And that's, by the way, that scenario's happened a few times. So I'm just saying. DM saying yes. Z saying, I've yet to see an R9 in the world. Same thing. Philip's asking, what bike is he talking about? Which, at what point? I've been talking about a bunch of bikes. The R9 and R7 are just MT-07 and MT-09 with fairings. Well, the R9, the frame itself is bespoke. The R9 is quite a bit different, but it does have the same tail section, and it does have the same swing arm. So, shit. With all these same components, I mean, where does it really separate itself? It's the core frame, but is that enough really to say that it's that different? I mean, look, it doesn't have ram air. It does have good technology, but you can only hide behind that for so long. And anyway, I'm curious to find out when somebody with a long-term R9 experience, somebody with like, I don't know, 6-8 months, maybe 700-800 miles on the thing, 900 miles on the thing, where they're actually riding the bike. Somebody with some motorcycling experience, somebody with some track experience. I mean, honest to goodness track experience, like somebody that has camped out in like, the top of B group or somewhere in A group for like the last few years. That's who I want to talk to. The guys that I don't, not some crazy, super fast, whatever point of view on it. Somebody that is an honest to God, really good rider that is doing this for the fun of it, that enjoys motorcycles. Did you keep it for any real length of time, or did you get away from it? What did you decide was going to be the right bike for you? But yeah, I mean, it's like, is there enough of a difference between the two? Not for my money. And a lot of folks with those Yamaha middleweights are finding out that they're just not quite the bike that they thought that they were going to be, apparently. But I don't know. I haven't had a chance to ride one. And DM saying he's never seen an R9 in the flesh. I've only seen one. It was a sold bike. I couldn't put a leg over it. It was a black bike, and it was in one of the warehouses, so I didn't really get a good look at it, and it was amongst other bikes. The black looks really good on that bike. I tried to find a red and white bike. I was about that close to buying one for the channel, and it did not work out the way that I thought it would. Philip's asking, have I ridden the R9? No. Some guys are saying the frames are not as stiff as the ZX6 and the GSX-R 600. I would believe that. I think a lot of that may have to do with how the swing arm is set up on that bike. But my understanding is it does have a bit of flex to it. But no, I haven't ridden one. And in fact, I had seriously considered buying one for the channel, and I never could. I was always one of them. The bike sold the day I walked into that dealership. Another one, it was a blue one, sold like 2 days before I got to the dealership, and it was still on their website. They hadn't taken it off yet. But no, I haven't ridden. The closest thing I've ridden to the R9 is the XSR 900. And I was impressed by it. And it accelerated harder than I thought that it would. But I mean, it's a good bike, neato. It's not for me. DM saying, and he was at one of the dealerships yesterday. Yeah, man. In talking to the guys at the dealerships that I've been to, it just hasn't really panned out to be a situation where they've had them in stock when I wanted to buy one. Oh, Philip, want a ZX6 or a GSX-R 600 coming off of the Grom? Nah, you'll get used to it. Oh, try the Tracer 9. You might like it. Yeah, Tracer 9 is a good bike. That's the swing arm that they put on the R9. They put the Tracer 9 swing arm on the R9 for the race bikes. But between those two bikes, pick whichever one fits you the best, and it'll be the right bike for you. I don't really get too hung up, by the way, when it comes to middleweights. I don't really get too, I don't get too worked up over outright power. You're not really buying a middleweight for power. And so I know that the ZX6R is going to be the most powerful of the 600 class bikes, but if you ride them back to back, you won't really notice a huge difference, by the way. Oh, Philip, sorry to hear about your friend. He only rode Harleys and moved over to a GSXR 1000. Yeah, see, here's the thing. That is unfortunate. I hate to hear that. Again, you know, thoughts and prayers for your boy. It sucks. I cannot express how much different that riding experience is. I mean, and here's the funny thing. I do riding reviews, right? So you can put me on a street glide and then I get onto a GSXR 1000. I'm used to both bikes. I really am, like a lot. But if you've only ridden, say, cruisers, like you've got, say, a Road Glide or a Challenger or something like that from Indian, and then I put you on one of these more powerful leader bikes, things get weird really fast. So, and it's one of the reasons why I like having a leader bike in the fleet, because for me, and I was mentioning this earlier, how having my GSXR 1000 makes me better in general, is it's the stone that I use to sharpen my skills with. I know my limits with that bike, and my limits are not what that bike can do, by the way. But it truly is how I keep myself sharp, is, and I'll also refer to it as palate cleansing. I'll ride several bikes and then it's like, okay, I need to hit the big reset button, break out the X-Star bike and just go for a rip. And then it's okay, polished up my skill set again, get that thing on the side of the tire, do some Gixxer 1000 stuff with it, and then everything's all right with the world. But I have to stay sharp with that bike. Phil saying one thing that gets weird is that veteran riders have told me that your weight on the bars neuters your steering regardless of the bike. I don't really know what that is referencing. If you're on a cruiser, that's absolutely true. I mean, you don't feel the front end the way that you do on a sport bike. The dynamics, the geometry of both bikes could not be further from each other. And so how you perceive certain inputs is going to be different. Certain feedback is going to be more numb on a cruiser than it will be on sport bikes. And so there's a lot to take into account there. But the thing is that if you're used to one and you don't ride the other kind of bike, then it's going to be a really weird transition either way you go. And for us, I mean, a sport bike guys, we're not like on the bars. Most of us are using our core, and you have a grip on the bars, but it's just, you don't really have your weight on the bars. It's kind of hard to explain. Anyway, and cruisers, your weight is on your back more than it is, or on your butt, really, I should say, more than it is on your core. So there is a significant difference one to the next, though, for sure. But guys, with that, hey, listen, we have made it an hour and 18 minutes, almost 19 minutes in. I have got to wrap it up. But listen, if you made it this far into the video, thanks for hanging out with us. This is my little slice of YouTube, my background noise generator. If you like what you've been hearing, subscribe. It's free. Trust me. If you don't like it, you can always unsubscribe, but then resubscribe because you might like it later on. Anyway, thank you guys very much for hanging out with me. Listen, get out there and do something cool for somebody. Chances are they need it way more than you know. But with that, guys, I got to get back to work. Y'all take it easy. Hope to see you on the next one.